Our story begins in 1857 in the desolate Arctic. The Royal Danish Navy ship, the Horizont, is trapped in massive fields of ice when the crew pulls a nearly dead Baron Victor Frankenstein aboard, suffering from hypothermia and exhaustion. Before Victor can recover, a colossal creature attacks the vessel, demanding his creator be handed over immediately. Recognizing his creation, Victor confesses to Captain Anderson he is the man who played God, and the relentless pursuit that led them to the ends of the earth started years ago with his unforgivable act of hubris. The narrative flashes back to the 1850s, where we meet Victor Frankenstein, an egotistical middle-aged surgeon. Driven by an obsession to conquer death, Victor was fired from the Royal College of Surgeons in Edinburgh for his controversial work as a resurrectionist. He continues his gruesome research, now funded by the sinister patronage Harlander, a wealthy arms dealer who provides Victor with a sprawling private laboratory. After months of illicit work, Victor achieves his ultimate horrific success. He animates the creature, a composite being of terrifying, undeniable life. Yet, in that moment of triumph, Victor is consumed not by pride, but by instant, searing revulsion. Horrified by the sheer monstrosity of what he has wrought, Victor flees his laboratory, abandoning his newly conscious creation to silence, solitude, and the brutal reality of the world. The creature awakens confused, intelligent, and immediately sentient. This highly articulate creation quickly learns about the world through observation, discovers the pain and warmth of fire, and realizes his frightening appearance is a profound barrier to acceptance. His early attempts to interact with humanity are met with instantaneous fear, hatred, and violence. Driven out of town after town, the creature flees society, seeking refuge near a remote cabin inhabited by a family of hunters. He remains hidden, observing the family, absorbing their language and customs, and learning the profound concepts of human emotion and morality. Crucially, he befriends the family's blind patriarch, the blind man. Unable to judge the creature's appearance, the blind man offers him the only genuine connection and kindness he has ever known. Through this man, the creature learns to speak fluently, read literature, and fully understand the world. This non-judgmental acceptance is the creature's brief, vital period of self-discovery. But this fragile peace is brutally shattered, marking the definitive turn toward darkness. The blind man's family departs, leaving the old man alone. Tragedy strikes. The blind man is attacked and murdered by wolves. When the family returns, they find the creature near the scene of carnage and, in a heartbreaking moment of profound injustice, immediately blame him for the murder. Driven away, reeling from grief and false accusation, the creature's innate goodness is curdled. This final, defining rejection cements his hatred for humanity, focusing his absolute rage onto his negligent creator, Victor. The creature tracks Victor down and confronts him, demanding that Victor use his scientific knowledge to create a female companion, arguing that only another of his kind could alleviate his unbearable existential isolation. Victor, initially agreeing, is simultaneously preoccupied with his own ambition and his fraught domestic situation. He struggles with his attraction to Elizabeth Lavenza, who in this version is the niece of his patron and the fiancée of Victor's younger brother, William. Elizabeth is a scientist who champions life and openly sympathizes with the creature, making her morally opposed to Victor's detached ambition. Consumed by fear and selfishness, Victor ultimately betrays the creature one final time, refusing to create a second monster and destroying the half-formed companion before completion. The creature, shattered by this ultimate act of betrayal, vows vengeance against Victor for destroying his last hope. He executes a devastating chain of retribution against Victor's family, explicitly targeting those Victor holds dear. He first murders Victor's younger brother, William Frankenstein. The ultimate price of Victor's hubris is paid when the creature murders Elizabeth Lavenza. This act of violence is made crystal clear in the film as the direct, tragic consequence of Victor's abandonment and his moral failure to meet his creation's demand for companionship. Victor dedicates the remainder of his life to hunting the creature across Europe and eventually into the desolate, frozen reaches of the Arctic, leading us back to the Horizont ship where the dying scientist was found. Back in the ice, Victor completes his painful confession to Captain Anderson. The creature, who has been listening to the entire narrative, fully grasps the depth of his creator's remorse. Victor, nearing death, finds his moral clarity. He apologizes to the creature for his abuse, addresses him not as a monster, but as his son, and implores him to embrace life. In a profound act of reconciliation that deviates dramatically from the source material, the creature accepts this final apology. He forgives Victor and calls him father. Victor Frankenstein succumbs to his injuries and dies aboard the vessel. The creature performs a final act of service for his deceased creator, pushing the ship free from the ice into the open water. He climbs off the Horizont and watches the ship sail toward the sunset, reaching out to embrace the sunlight, a metaphor for life that Victor had once taught him. Captain Anderson, having witnessed the horror and the humanity of the tragedy, wisely turns his ship homeward. That is the full tragic plot of Frankenstein 2025. But now we have to talk about the deeper nightmare. How loyal was Guillermo del Toro's adaptation to Mary Shelley's original novel, Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus? The film is remarkably faithful to the spirit and core structure of the novel. Del Toro retains the crucial Arctic frame story and preserves the creature's immense intelligence and eloquence. However, Del Toro made calculated changes that fundamentally altered the tragedy. Victor is changed from an innocent student to a professionally disgraced, middle-aged surgeon in the mid-1850, grounding his ambition in desperation and the ethically gray Victorian medical world. His creation is now partially funded by a new character, Heinrich Harlander, an arms dealer. The film also adds Victor's strict, oppressive father, Baron Leopold Frankenstein, establishing Victor's own neglect of the creature as an inherited sin of the father. The plot deviations are key to the film's emotional intensity. In the novel, the creature's only friend, the blind man, survives the intrusion. Del Toro makes a major shift here. The blind man is murdered by wolves, and the creature is unjustly blamed by the family. This alteration streamlines the plot, instantly turning the creature's grief into rage and solidifying his path toward revenge. Furthermore, the plot involving Victor building and then destroying the female companion, the bride, is largely removed. By cutting the bride plot, the film centers the conflict solely on the unresolved, fatalistic relationship between Victor and his singular creation. The most dramatic difference occurs at the very end. In Shelley's novel, Victor dies consumed by hatred, still determined to destroy the creature. Del Toro rejects this cycle of perpetual retribution, instead offering absolution and reconciliation. As Victor dies, he repents, apologizes for his abuse, and addresses the creature as his son. The creature in turn forgives him and calls him father. This cinematic ending transforms the story from a cautionary tale of unending horror into a complex, hopeful vision of emotional repair, allowing the creature to embrace a possibility of self-acceptance as the film fades out. So, was this modern ending the right closure? Or did Del Toro stray too far from Shelley's original intent? Let us know your hot take right now. Smash that like button if you were hooked by this deep dive, and click subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next breakdown of a literary masterpiece. Peace out.